hello again. It's Robert Hicks, the boy in his Bible. You may have thought that I was going to do Chronicles now. Well, actual Chronicles belongs to what we call the writings. So I will leave Chronicles and put it on one side for a moment because I'm dealing with leadership. In the book of the Kings, which we talked last time, there's a powerful negative statement from God. And it says this: the Lord removed them from his presence, as he had warned through all his servants and prophets. The Lord removed them from his presence, always acting in love. Indeed, you can read the Kings and the Chronicles and the Samuels, and you'll see always God acting in love. And there has to be this removal of his promise, because he had predicted that would happen one day, his presence would go. When we come to the New Testament, we know that all of us start off being dead in trespasses and sins without God's presence. When we are converted, when we have the Spirit of the living God come into us, it's a new birth, it's a new creation, it's a new start, something fresh. And from that we grow, and from that we develop. We need always the Spirit of the living God. Well, at the end of 2 Kings, we have, of course, this man called Jeremiah mentioned. And when I was a boy, I think I was 17, I discovered a shop called the CLC Christian Bookshop that was in the Midlands. So when I used to have some time, occasionally, not very often, from work, I would always go to the bookshop. And of course, I looked at books that I couldn't afford. The only book that I acquired that was new to my knowledge was Vine's Dictionary of New Testament Words, which the manager allowed me to buy week by week over a period of months. However, he allowed me to take the book away with me straight away. So I could, if he knew I loved words, and this was to him a marvellous introduction to words. Little did I know that Vine's books would go into under management. I was going to say bad management. Actually, it was bad management by the publishers, by two sets of publishers. And I was able to acquire the rights and restore it. And since then, it's grown and grown and grown again. But I was interested in words. But in the CLC, there was a basket of little books like this. And this one's Jeremiah. They were King James Bibles, book by book. So I could buy up the Bible in small books. And I thought to myself, I'll do that. They were selling them off cheap. I think they were selling them for 3 pence, 1.5 pennies today, or thereabout. Maybe I got that wrong. But I could put this in my pocket. I had books I could have at work that I could read. And I can even remember where I was when I went through Jeremiah at the age of 17 at work. I was in a George Mason shop in a place called Northwood, and I was now taking over the provision counter. And in my lunch break, which was not very long, about 20 minutes, I used to climb on top of a huge stack of sugar, cases of sugar, so I could be away from anybody, and I would get out this book of Jeremiah and I would read it. I had 2 of them. I bought 1 of all the small books of the Bible and 2 of Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and 1 or 2 other books like that. And I used to mark them. And this one, I didn't mark so much. I wanted one I didn't mark. And this is the only one that I've got left of all the books that were there. When we moved, we lost a crate, where we lost a number of crates in the journey. And in that number of crates, we lost all my precious little Bible books. except this one. And it turned up a few weeks ago. That's the telephone telling me we ought to answer it. And I think that, oh, thank you. Hello, Robert speaking. Joyce, it is so good to hear from you. Can, well, we've been wondering whether you're going to come and see us. You're the pastoral lady, and you should be coming and see us. Look, Joyce, I'm in a recording at this very moment, and people can hear me talking to you. So why don't you say a big hello?
Hi, Joyce.
Yes, Green, and I obviously Annie Bow didn't answer the phone, so I don't know where she is at the moment. So can you ring her later, and I'll tell her that you rang her. Love you lots. Bye. That's
That's the Joyce I know.
that's the Joyce that you know.
She's great.
This is going to be cut out, so
Yeah.
we we will go back. So with this book, it's not marked so much. However, I put at the front of the book verses that hit me with power as I read the book. And this is what I discovered when I was 17 years of age. And I'll read you some of the notes that I made. First, I put down individual guilt. I thought that Jeremiah was talking to the leadership in a personal way. And he was saying, you are responsible. You are responsible. He also would say that to everybody. But there was a kind of a confrontation with the leadership, and that was there. He had been called of God. He felt inadequate as a boy. I identified with those things, but he was given a message of God. He was told he was never going to get married because of the urgency of the times, something that Paul would echo in talking about how people should remain unmarried at that time because a crisis had appeared that was taking place. Not a rule for life, but in a crisis situation. And he told he wasn't going to get married. He was going to spend some 40 odd years preaching and prophesying. And it's an amazing book. It doesn't come to us in any chronological order. It looks as if the writings have been taken over a period of time by various secretaries or scribes, as they are called in the book, and they are called scribes. And we're also told in the book how they used to write on papyrus, and now they used to have the ink and now what I call a pencil and write things through and down, etc. And also we're told how the first lot of prophecies were ripped up. When they were put together into a more permanent form, I suspect they've got them mixed up in the order. That doesn't matter. That's a life's work that was done. That doesn't matter. But in the book, from the very beginning to the very end, I began to write these things down. I used to mark them in colored pencils. And it's to do with the human heart. Individual guilt. And this is what I've noticed. The heart of man is sinful 52 times in the book. 52 times it talks about the heart of man in so many different ways. And I mentioned some of them in a moment. But it's summarized in that incredible verse, the heart of sinful man, and who can know it? Would not hearken. I noticed when I was 17, the boy in his Bible, 36 times. They would not listen. In marketing, if we want a person to listen to something that we want to tell them about a product or a service, we know it's going to take a dozen times before we get their attention, 20, 30 times before they begin to respond. You never give up on communicating the gospel of Jesus Christ because people don't listen. People don't listen to God. And I know people don't listen to God because I have the same problem. this is what it says, and I mention, and comes up 9 times, an evil and bitter heart. Note the word bitter there. That comes up 9 times. A stubborn heart, I noted 8 times. Now, I might have got it wrong. I might be out a bit. Maybe I didn't capture them all. Maybe there are some expressions that mean the same thing and I didn't include. A disobedient, revolting, a heart with no desire for God, a misdirected heart, a selfish heart, a stubborn heart. I mentioned a deceitful heart, a proud heart, whose heart is departed from the Lord. And I put down, note here, and I was only 17, the sinfulness of the human heart is the reason for the failure of the Reformation that came just before Jeremiah was taken as a forced person into Egypt and never did go to Babylon or never stayed. Now, maybe there's a lot of Jeremiah I don't understand. I suspect that is so. I remember reading a very heavy book on the life of Jeremiah and some of the prophecies in them, and I found it hard going. I read all the book, but if you said, could I retain it? I can retain what I did as a child. I can't retain what I did as an adult. But it was clear to me there was a lot in Jeremiah I don't know. But I do know this. There were 2 things about Jeremiah that stood out to me. The first one was before he was taken a prisoner, he bought a piece of land. That's where you get the 30 pieces of silver syndrome over in the New Testament as well with Judas. He bought a piece of land. A piece of land that he knew was going to be occupied. And going to be occupied for a long time, long after he's dead and gone. But he had the deeds to that land. He was saying, I will return. He was putting his hope in the future. He had a terrible past. The most unhappiest past you can remember for any of the prophets is not called the weeping prophet for naught. He was an extraordinarily clever individual. His own father had been a rejected priest. He had become a prophet. Powerful, powerful prophet from his youth upwards. And I said there were 2 things, not only the piece of land and the 30 pieces of silver. He said there's going to come a time that God would write a new covenant, not on 2 pieces of stone like the 10 commandments, but would write them on human hearts, that people would know him. A covenant to know the Lord. No one would have to say to his neighbor, tell me how to know the Lord. They would know the Lord. And Jesus, in the New Testament, echoed for us so strongly in the Gospels, but amplified in the epistles, is the new covenant. And when you take that bread, and when you drink that cup in communion of the Lord Jesus Christ in remembrance of him, you are linked to the one time that we mention a new heart in the book of Jeremiah. And you can shake hands with him one day and say, thank you that I can have a new heart in a new covenant. Failed leadership, yet a promise of a new land and the promise of a new heart. Boy, is Bible speaking here. God bless you.